3 countries, 8 days. President Moon Jae-in starts his tour to Scandinavia in Finland. Economic cooperation and next-generation communication networks are set to top the agenda on the South Korean leader's first day in Helsinki. Hungary is due to start salvaging the tour boat that sank in the Danube River late last month while carrying 33 South Korean tourists and 2 Hungarian crew members. Plus, huge, intense protests against a proposed Chinese extradition law in Hong Kong turned violent as protesters attempt to storm the city's legislative council. Our top story this morning, President Moon Jae-in is in Finland, the first stop of his 8-day, 3-nation tour of Northern Europe. That will also take him to Norway and Sweden. The South Korean leader is set to call for Finland's cooperation on innovative growth and the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution. Our Shin Se-min files this report from Helsinki.
President Moon Jae-in's Northern European tour begins in Helsinki, the capital of Finland, where he's set to call for deepening the two sides' partnerships on peace as well as innovative and inclusive growth. Becoming just the second South Korean leader to be bestowed a state visit to Finland, President Moon officially begins his trip with a summit with his Finnish counterpart, Sauli Niinisto. Officials say the two will discuss ways to revitalize their respective economies by supporting exchanges between startups. With Finland known for its advanced startup ecosystems, the two countries will also sign a memorandum of understanding aimed at expanding personal exchanges and investment support for small and mid-sized firms.
It will be an opportunity to provide a basis for cooperation on next-generation communications like 5G, 6G, and artificial intelligence, as well as the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
President Moon will also meet Finland's Prime Minister and other senior Finnish officials during his stay. The leaders may even discuss ways to support President Moon's peace drive on the Korean peninsula. With President Niinisto dangling the idea of hosting a potential third North Korea-U.S. summit in Finland, the South Korean leader looks set to call for Helsinki to fully back his denuclearization drive at the earliest date possible. By holding the Korea-Finland summit at the birthplace of the Helsinki Accords, a diplomatic agreement aimed at reducing tensions among global leaders, President Moon is hopeful that he can win support for his peace drive and perhaps come up with ways to bring the major parties of the denuclearization negotiations back to the table for talks. Shin Se-min, Arirang News, Helsinki.
Now, ruling Democratic Party lawmakers and government and Blue House officials have called for the swift normalization of the National Assembly here in South Korea. At a meeting this morning, the groups raised concerns that the multi-US dollar extra budget bill has been sitting idle for almost 2 months due to parliamentary standstill. They said the bill is needed in order to tackle downside economic risks and help areas recover from a series of natural disasters. The National Assembly has been out of action after the ruling party and 3 minor opposition parties fast-tracked key reform bills in late April. The main opposition Liberty Korea Party, which was strongly against the fast track, is demanding that the parties withdraw the move. A top US official has spoken out on the possibility for President Trump to slap China with even more tariffs if upcoming face-to-face talks with his Chinese counterparts fall apart this month. Stephen Mnuchin's remarks come as China has warned global tech giants against cooperating with Washington's blacklist of certain Chinese firms. Kim Mok-yeon with the details.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin has reiterated that President Trump will decide whether to hit China with more tariffs after meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the G20 World Leaders Summit in Japan later this month. Speaking to American cable network CNBC on Sunday, Mnuchin said Trump will try to determine if his Chinese counterpart is willing to head towards what he calls the right direction to reshape the two sides' trade and commercial relationship. Mnuchin added Washington is prepared to move forward with a deal, but if China is unwilling to do so, President Trump would be perfectly happy to impose more tariffs to rebalance the relationship. Trump has already imposed 25% tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, but is now weighing whether to impose new tariffs on other Chinese products worth $325 billion. China is gearing up to protect its companies in the aftermath of Washington's efforts to invite its allies to join the U.S. blacklisting of Huawei. According to the New York Times, the Chinese government has warned global tech giants that they could face dire consequences if they cooperate with the Trump administration's ban on sales of key American technology to Chinese firms. The meetings were reportedly held on Tuesday and Wednesday last week, involving Microsoft, Dell, Britain's ARM, and South Korea's Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. Representatives of the companies mentioned in the New York Times have yet to confirm the report. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
Now, uncertainty was the sense that lingered among the finance ministers of G20 nations as they flew back to their respective countries after wrapping up a meeting in Japan. They are concerned trade and geopolitical tensions have intensified to the point where they are threatening the health of the global economy. Lee Seung-jae reports.
A two-day gathering of G20 finance leaders came to an end in Fukuoka on Sunday, under a cloud of uncertainty about the health of the world economy as trade tensions escalate. Despite problems pointing to the ongoing trade war between the U.S. and China, the finance leaders stopped short of calling for a resolution. In fact, in the joint statement released on the final day, a proposed clause to recognize the pressing need to resolve trade tensions was excluded. According to sources, the deletion came at the insistence of Washington as it looks to continue hitting China with massive tariffs. The statement also contains no omissions that the deepening U.S.-China trade conflict is damaging global growth. This comes as the IMF warned last week that while global growth is still expected to improve this year and next, the U.S.-China trade war could shave 0.5% from global GDP output in 2020. For context, that's equivalent to the size of South Africa's entire economy. However, the G20 finance leaders agreed to compile common rules by 2020 in order to close loopholes that are used by global tech giants to reduce their corporate taxes. The communiqué also includes pledges to increase debt transparency on the part of borrowers and creditors. Sustainable infrastructure development was another priority amid concerns China's massive Belt and Road infrastructure drive is saddling poor nations with debt they can't afford to repay. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, Hungarian authorities are stepping up efforts to salvage the sunken tour boat that capsized in Budapest on May 29th while carrying 33 South Korean tourists and 2 Hungarian crew members. Once all the harnesses are attached, the boat is expected to be lifted out of the Danube River as early as Monday local time. Kim Hyo-sun with the details.
Major preparations are underway to lift the sunken Habliani tour boat off the bed of the Danube. As of 8 p.m. local time on Sunday, 3 of 4 main wire harnesses had been connected to the boat. Local authorities are also taking measures to ensure what is inside the boat does not go missing in the process. This is not easy as there is a large amount of debris on the riverbed as the Margit Bridge, where the boat sank, was blown up during the Second World War.
Everything depends on the installation of the wire harness. This could either speed up or delay the salvage process.
However, the rescue team expects the boat to be raised sooner rather than later.
Our goal is to salvage the boat as early as Monday afternoon.
Meanwhile, the Viking Sigyn cruise ship involved in the crash is expected to arrive back in Budapest on Tuesday, about 2 weeks after the deadly collision. According to images obtained by South Korean news broadcaster YTN, traces of the accident had been scrubbed from the cruise ship. There had been scrapes and scratches on the bow of the ship immediately after the accident, but those traces have been erased. The Ukrainian captain of the cruise ship has also reportedly deleted the call and message history from his mobile phone. Amid demands for the Viking Sigyn to be seized, there are also increasing calls to carry out additional on-site investigation on the cruise ship as soon as possible. Kim Yo-san, Arirang News.
Now, a South Korean woman is missing after she reportedly went overboard from a cruise ship last weekend in the Mediterranean Sea. A spokesperson for Norwegian Cruise Line confirmed Saturday that the 63-year-old woman has not yet been found, despite a search and rescue operation being triggered immediately upon news of her disappearance. According to ABC News, the woman, who was travelling with her husband, left her cabin at around 1 a.m. to get some fresh air, but never returned. The accident happened a matter of hours after the ship departed from Cannes, France, heading for Spain. Now, a huge and largely peaceful protests against an extradition bill in Hong Kong broke into small clashes between police and protesters just before dawn on this Monday. For more on this story and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Hong Yu. So, what prompted the authorities to use force on these protesters? And tell us why exactly people in Hong Kong are just so up in arms against this bill.
Well, Mark, what had been a peaceful protest descended into clashes between police and protesters when several hundred protesters tried to break into the Legislative Council. The council is where debates regarding the new extradition bill that would allow suspects to be sent across the border to Taiwan, Macau, and mainland China for trial will start from Wednesday. Several hundred riot police used batons and fire pepper spray and water cannons at protesters trying to break in, and people on both sides got injured. The demonstration against Hong Kong government's plan to allow extradition to mainland China started Sunday, and organizers estimate more than 1 million people took part in it. That would make it the biggest rally since 1989, when people gathered to support the Tiananmen Square protest in China. Sunday's protests kicked off in Victoria Park, with protesters chanting "No China extradition, no evil law," and carrying signs reading "Carry off Carrie" in reference to Hong Kong's chief executive Carrie Lam.
I think the most important thing is to oppose the evil law, as this new law is stepping on the bottom line of Hong Kong people. Any person, even those who thought at first it's not their business, now see that as long as they're from Hong Kong, they will be affected. Everyone can feel this today.
I joined the march today because I want to take back and fight for the freedom that Hong Kong people are supposed to have. The motherland once promised that we would have one country, two systems, but now under the regime of Xi Jinping, Carrie Lam and John Lee, who are betting on the future of Hong Kong people and the freedom that Hong Kong people used to have, will no longer exist if this law is passed.
Lam has pushed forward with the controversial legislation, saying it's aimed at closing legal loopholes. But opponents fear the amendments would allow Chinese authorities to take people for political reasons and undermine Hong Kong's semi-autonomous legal system. The bill's opponents hope that Sunday's massive show of discontent will convince the government to scrap the bill. Sizzling temperatures hit Moscow on Sunday, with the mercury hitting 31 degrees Celsius, the highest June 9th temperature seen in 20 years in the Russian capital. The same temperature was last observed on June 9, 1999. The normal daytime highs around this time of the year in Moscow are 25 degrees. Russia's weather agency issued an orange alarm, the nation's second highest alarm, which warns of a possible natural disaster and health problems. The warning that runs through Monday advises people to rest in a cool place if they experience headaches or elevated heart rates due to the heat. The king of clay has done it again. Rafael Nadal, who is virtually unbeatable on clay, won his 12th French Open title on Sunday at Roland Garros in Paris. The 33-year-old Spaniard defeated Dominic Thiem in 4 sets, 6-3, 5-7, 6-1, 6-1. His latest victory gives him a career total of 18 Grand Slam titles. He now trails Roger Federer and the all-time men's record by just 2 titles.
A body presumed to be that of a UN soldier of an American or French descent who fought on the south side during the Korean War has been discovered during a demining and excavation project inside the DMZ. Seoul's Defense Ministry announced on Sunday that it's the first time during this project that remains believed to be that of a UN soldier have been found at Arrowhead Ridge, the site of one of the fiercest battles of the Korean War. An estimated 100 UN troops were killed at the site and 20 or more are presumed to still be buried there. South Korea's defense chief is scheduled to visit the site on Tuesday with the US and French ambassadors to South Korea, as well as officials from the UN command. One of the most prestigious ballet companies in the entire world, Les Ballets de Monte-Carlo from Monaco, is bringing the fairy tale Cinderella to South Korea for the first time in 14 years. For this production, Korean ballerino An Jae-yong will be performing in his home country for the first time since joining the company in 2016. Cinderella is on at the Seoul Arts Center this coming Wednesday to Friday and at the Daejeon Arts Center from June 18th to the 19th. Now, to further bolster ties with Chinese media and co-produce outstanding content, Arirang TV, the channel you are watching right now, has signed a memorandum of understanding with China's Guangdong TV. At a signing ceremony in Seoul, the two sides on Sunday agreed to work together to deepen cooperation to mark their 10th anniversary of friendship.
Cultural exchanges have to be mutual, not one way, so that they can last longer and have a meaningful impact. I believe bilateral cooperation between the two countries in the realm of media will be very substantial and effective.
Through exchanges with Arirang TV, we have achieved broader developments in shooting, production, and more. We have also learned of the Korean media's professionalism and forged a deeper friendship.
The two sides plan to co-produce documentaries on culture and conduct more exchanges on collaboration on news contents as well. They hope to provide quality content for viewers worldwide, including those in South Korea and China, and bolster cooperation in international broadcasting. Time now for our Life and Info segment, where we focus on information that we do hope will be useful for your everyday life. To prepare for yet another scorching summer here in Korea, the South Korean government is seeking to fix its electricity billing system for the peak months when everyone switches on their air conditioning. Our Park Se-young with more.
With the worst heat in 111 years, South Korea's household electricity use set a new record in 2018. In August, when electricity consumption was highest, the average monthly electricity bill in Seoul was double that of December's. Currently, Korea's household electricity bills are divided into 3 rates, so that the heaviest users are billed at a rate 3 times higher than the lowest users. Last year, about 40% of households were hit with the increased electricity rates of heavy users, which is why the government is looking to revise the system before July. 3 proposals have been suggested and are under discussion. Temporarily expanding the usage ceiling for the first 2 rates during the summer will lower electricity bills for more than 60 million households by around $8 each. Altering the billing system to 2 rates instead of the current 3 will see over 6 million households benefit from an average discount of about $14. However, this revision comes with concerns that it will only benefit those who use the most electricity. The last proposal calls for a flat rate system throughout the year. This will resolve the progressive rate controversy, but around 14 million households in the first stage will see their electric bills rise by over $3. The Trade Ministry will finalize the plan after a public hearing of expert discussions and feedback from the public on Tuesday. If the proposal is approved by the Korea Electric Power Corporation and the Energy Ministry, the revision will go into effect in July. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, a new study has found that eating white meat, like chicken, has the same effect on cholesterol levels as eating red meat. According to a study of 100 healthy men and women by the University of California, San Francisco, plant proteins had the healthiest impact on blood cholesterol, but white and red meats had an identical effect when saturated fat levels were equivalent. Both small and large LDL, or bad cholesterol particles, are associated with the hardening of the arteries, and a high saturated fat diet was associated with a higher concentration of large LDL particles. However, they added, eating white meat may be still less harmful, as there may be other effects from eating red meat that contribute to heart disease. Now, starting next year, free Wi-Fi will be available on all public buses and at large parks across Seoul as part of the capital's communication welfare policy. According to the Seoul Metropolitan Government, in-vehicle Wi-Fi terminals will first be installed in nearly 1,500 neighborhood buses serving over 200 routes by October. Seoul will install 6,000 more on city buses by December and 1,400 on intercity buses by next year, and also extend the service to over 2,000 bus stops. Free Wi-Fi will also be available at 24 large parks in the South Korean capital, as well as at 300 additional welfare centres for the elderly and young people by the year 2020.
Good morning. After a dry May, the start of June has brought much needed rain to central parts of the country. In fact, overnight showers will gradually taper off for most areas, while Jeollado provinces and eastern regions could see more rain through tomorrow morning, actually. In western regions, we'll see more rain at this time. The Jeollado provinces will see 10 to 50 millimeters, while the capital area and Chungcheongdo provinces will receive 5 to 30 millimeters of showers before it completely goes away by mid-afternoon. And along with showers and lots of cloud coverage, temperatures will be a lot cooler. And especially those in southern parts of the country will have relatively breezy temperatures today and through this week. And as for today's daily highs, temperatures will be in the low to mid-20s, and many major cities will get up to 24 degrees Celsius this afternoon, including here in the capital. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Monday morning here in Seoul. We do hope your week gets off to a great start. Stay tuned to Arirang TV. Plenty more coming up, including our daily reminder that our next newscast is coming up at noon Korea time with our very own Lee Ji-yoon. So until then, goodbye.
What can this door be? An unexpected encounter turning into joyful communication. An unfamiliar smile turning into a warm welcome. We wait for the day we'll happily reconfirm our similarities. Knocking on the door of an era of peace and communication.